Project 1 is the Vintage Design Phone Charger. Now I'm going to be using a 1x8 by 6 foot piece to build basically all the components of this phone charger. Ripping the box section down to 3.5 inches, notching out the sides of it to help accept the top and the bottom. And then I'll line that up onto what is the back of the phone charger. Then taking a piece of paper, fold it in half, I'm going to cut out a pattern that I can use to put onto the top back of the phone charger. I can take it to the bandsaw and cut this out along with the shelf and any other pieces of this. Now that everything's cut, I want to move through this and use a router to cut out the back side of the panel with a nice looking decorative edge, and I'll also route out the cup holder or the shelf that will hold the cordless charger. I picked up a couple of funnels, plastic funnels from the hardware store, and I'm going to use these to actually create the receiver and the earpiece for the vintage phone. Also using a hole saw, I'll be creating patterns and the end pieces for this, along with also cutting two shapes that I'm going to sand down smooth into the shape of the bells that will sit at the top of the phone. If you'd like to see a full-length version of this build, I'll also put a link to that in the description below. Using some scrap PVC, I'm going to create the receiver part. From here I'll take this outside and spray paint it a brass color. And with a little bit of black paint I will paint the actual handle of that. And it's always nice to have a visit from Montague, one of the shop cats. I used some of the scrap MDF and created a receiver that will hold that funnel that I cut out. So now, besides the cordless charger that sits on the front of this, I installed 4 bays of additional phone chargers that can be just stood up inside the cabinet. This has an easy way to work. You just plug it in and set it up on the shelf. It'll charge, plus you have an additional wireless charger on that front shelf. Project 2 is the drill storage rack. Now, I picked up from the big box store a laminated sheet of pine that was 24 inches by 4 foot, and I was able to cut out all my parts within this. Now that the pieces are cut, and of course I have Montague the shop cat here to help me. On one of the sides, I'm going to cut a extension cord panel so that if you want to put your chargers up on the top shelf, you don't have to loop that over. Now I'm going to start using an orbital sander to start smoothing out some of these pieces, especially the bottom parts where your drills will fit in. And then using some CA glue, I'm going to start assembling this. Now I'm going to use an air nailer to start assembling, but if you don't have one, you could use small brad nails or even screws for this. I also created a jig or a pattern that was the same width, so it was easy to install those shelves on there. Now the shelf for the top here. I also have a full-length video on building this, and if you're interested in watching that, I'll put a link to that down in the description below. Now it's ready to take outside and put a coat of clear on it. I think we're ready to install this. Made it tall enough that it can also handle spare batteries and of course some battery chargers as well. I even can put some drill bits and different things like that up there. Really happy with this. And now, Project 3, the guitar wall hanger. This is a pretty simple project, and I'm using some garden tool hooks and a 2x2. And I just started marking this off at 6 inches and coming across, and I'm actually going to build 4 of these. Now on each of these, I'm going to drill a countersunk hole for the screws for the wall to go on, and then a 1/4 inch bit will come through for the center of the hooks to mount on. Now I'm going to the bandsaw and I'm going to cut one of these out with the curves on both ends of it. But the great thing is, once I've cut one of these, I can use it as a template for the remaining 3. Using a 1x4, I'm going to create this same shape on there, but I'm going to make it shorter to go along the sides of this. Just like that. All right, I know it looks like a hot dog, but bear with me now. I'm now going to use a piece of brass material, and I'm going to cut this into those 3/4 inch strips that is the same width of the pieces I've added to the sides of these. Now, if you want to see a full-length, more in-depth video on this, I'll put a link to this in the description below. So we've pre-drilled the holes, so now it's pretty much as easy as just screw them down into place. Project 4, the vintage style Bluetooth speaker. Now this project I'm actually going to be using MDF on, and you can buy this in 2 foot by 2 foot sheets at any of the big box stores. Right here I'm using some 1/2 inch thick, and I'm creating a design that is very vintage or retro looking. I was kind of going for that tail fin of a 57 Chevy or a Cadillac. I created the templates and then cut them out, and also marked each individual one so I could tell where everything was going. Sanding MDF is really easy, and it's hard, but it sands down to a beautiful smooth finish. Now I'm going to cut the sides and the top for the body of this Bluetooth speaker. Once the top's I'm going to set it there, and I'm oversizing these, and we'll kind of shape them and cut them to size as I line them up, especially with this top piece being on an angle, and I want to match that. So I'm going to match it this way, and I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw, and luckily I can angle the bandsaw to get that exact angle that I was looking for. I'm also going to pre-cut all the holes for the speakers and the control of this before assembling or gluing the sides together. And this is Sabella, our other shop cat that came down to see what was happening. So using CA glue, I'm going to start the assembly process. The CA glue glues or sets up extremely fast, but it's great because it makes the process so much quicker. Now I can take it outside and start sanding down all these corners and these edges to get that roundness that I wanted to give it that vintage look. I'll give it a little hand sanding as well to smooth out anything, or even use a little bit of putty if needed. And I'm going to use some white primer. And then I'm going to mask off some of the tail fin on this so that I can take this outside and spray the silver or chrome look to it. Now adding the pink Cadillac color. And I'm going to cut some strips. And now these are going to be turned into the grill, or the chrome looking bars that run along the tail fin. They'll also get a groove on the inside of it that'll help to fit around the speaker. Now if you're interested in this video, there is a link in the description down below that will give you a longer, more detailed version of this. here I'm going to add the Rockler Bluetooth speaker system. This is a very simple system that Rockler sells, and it's ready to go with basically 3 wires to plug in. So I'm going to fish through the main speaker. Now I can put on the grill. Some feet for the bottom. And now I can finish fishing through the 3 wires, and it's just red, white, and blue plugs into the red, white, and blue slots. Doesn't sound too bad. And you can advance these by just hitting the button on the top for forward or back with this. And the great thing with this one too is it comes with the charging cable, so all you have to do is plug it into a USB port either on your computer or just a charging piece. So that works fairly well. And our 5th project, the vintage style bottle opener. Now I'm using just the leftover material of the MDF that I used in the last project. And I'm actually going to build 2 bottle openers at the same time because it's just as easy to cut out all the materials for that. I'll use some double-stick tape or double-sided tape to place all of these together in one stack and then just cut them all out at the same time. Now I created a side piece that's got some unique shapes to it, almost steampunkish, but I wanted it to also be retro. So using a spray glue, it's real easy just to go in with each of these. Now I'm using the drill to cut out my holes in each of these. Then I can take it to the bandsaw and take my time and just slowly cut out all of the shape around this. And I really like that shape design. So now I'm going to use another panel and start cutting out some of the backboard along with the box that will hold everything of the bottle lids once they fall down into it. I borrowed one of my wife's pans to create the curve on the top and bottom of this, and I promise I'll put it back there. Assembly of this was really a lot of fun, and I'm going to use clamps to help hold it into place while the glue dries. You could have also used CA glue and probably wouldn't have to clamp anything. So while those sides are kind of drying up, I will also put the front of this on. Now, if you're interested in seeing a longer and more in-depth video on this, I'll put a link to it in the description down below. And I'm going to let that dry overnight. And then I'm going to glue some of the decorative trim that goes around the box part of this. And like I was saying, if you were using CA glue, you wouldn't have to be waiting for this. Give it a kind of a light sand in a few areas, and now it's ready for priming. Now I'm spraying this with a bright red because I'm going for a Coca-Cola theme on this. Now if you want it to look brand new, you could just pretty much go with just the nice bright red color on here. For me though, I wanted it to look aged, so I actually came back with the sander and knocked off some of the edging a little bit, so it gave it a more worn and antique look to it. I then browned down the red in a color to where I could just kind of do a little bit of aging into the kind of the corners of everything. So kind of brushing that on and then taking a rag and daubing it off gives it a really kind of an aged look to it. I really like how this works. Now I went on Google and I printed off some old antique Coca-Cola signs that I'm going to use and just kind of cut them out. And then using some Elmer spray glue, I'm just going to spray the backs of these and stick them down onto the bottle opener. I found a antique looking Coke sign and cutting it out because it has an aged look and wear to it as well. Now once I have these down, I'm going to seal them into this by putting a clear coat over the entire thing. Now if you're using clear coat over existing paint that you painted with, make sure you're buying the same brand of clear as to the red paint you were using. Now I'm basically going to install the bottle opener itself, leaving the bottom hole of that open so I can use that to attach it to the wall. these projects help spark your imagination to come up with some really cool woodworking projects. Also, if you get a chance, check out the merchandise page, and they've got some cool t-shirts and coffee cups, and this helps to support my channel. And in the meantime, I'll see you soon.